I'm thrilled to welcome Lynne Lambourne to Salvo Fest. Lynne encapsulates the reuse lifestyle, inspiring conscious choices through her upcycling and her general thriftiness, to demonstrate that designing your home with salvage genuinely doesn't cost the earth. Hi, Lynne.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, nice to be here and show you all a few of my tips and tricks.
Can you tell us what you're going to talk us through today?
Well, I just thought the simplest thing to show you would be just how to start off upcycling with chalk paint. And chalk paint is brilliant because it doesn't require you to prep your piece of furniture. So if you find, for example, I've got this chair here and you can see it's definitely seen better days. It's kind of something you pull out of skip.
Yeah.
And lots of people then look at that and think, oh God, how do I get all these paint bits off? Or it could be that it's just dark wood, which has become a little bit more unfashionable, and you want to pop it white and it'll fit in with your house, etc., etc. And people are put off because they think, how the hell do I start that? They think about all these paint strippers. No, with chalk paint, the beauty of chalk paint is it just goes straight onto anything. So it's foolproof, really. I mean, I would suggest giving things a bit of a dust down because you don't want cobwebs in your paintbrush. That's a nightmare. Yeah. So you just give it a wipe down. If you're unsure and you have found it maybe, at a car boot sale, or it's slightly more antique-y and it looks like it might have furniture polish, like your gran used to polish everything every week. Yeah. If you've got something like that, then you would need maybe some sugar soap.
Okay.
Wipe it down with sugar soap, and that will just get rid of that layer of polish, because any paint finds it difficult to stick onto highly polished surfaces. In fact, you're asking the paint to sit on top of the polish rather than the wood. So you just need to get rid of that. So that would be the first thing.
And when you are looking for, the right kind of piece to upcycle, is there any tips in terms of what you're looking for in terms of the material, ensuring it's proper wood? Or
I would say, yeah, proper wood is always, I get asked all the time, can I upcycle MDF? Yeah, you can, but it's not the easiest and it doesn't give you the best results. If you're going to be looking for something like that, a laminate surface, then you do need to prep it with this product, Bin, which is great. So that is, it's a primer, really. It's a shellac primer, and that goes on, and then that allows you to paint on top of that.
Okay.
So if you've got something like that, but really what you want to look for is lovely old furniture. Half the stuff that people get rid of these days is beautifully made drawers, with the dovetails at the side, really nice pieces. And they're so solid, and people just get rid of them because they don't look like how they want them to look. But actually, with a bit of creativity, a bit of imagination, those pieces will look exactly like probably the pieces that you're going to buy in these kind of shops anyway. So you just need to have a bit of
made and will last you longer anyway.
Yeah, it's just about looking at it, and the shape of this old furniture is absolutely beautiful. And that's why with the chalk paint as well, you can then sand a lot of, when you get a chair like this is beautiful. It's got, can you see all the grooves and everything like that? You can use your sandpaper then to highlight those and to bring those out and still make it look aged, but more into the sort of the line of what you wanted to do. I hate that word shabby chic.
Yeah, no, but I think what you're right. In terms of looking at the detail on that chair, a lot of that's come from handmade craftsmanship. So it's great to showcase that and pick pieces like that.
The technique that I really like is when you do 2 layers of colour, because that gives the piece a really nice kind of aged feel, as if where you're sanding back the colour, you're sanding it back to the actual the layer underneath, as if you're aging it. And you can use the bits of definition to sand, and then the white or whatever colour you've popped underneath will pop through. And then you have your whole chair, maybe it's blue, and then you sand in the areas where there's some definition, and then the white comes through. So it's super easy like that to do. And you can, the more you play around with the chalk paint, the more different techniques you learn, the more, it's just a whole learning process. There's no rule book really with it. You can kind of do your own thing, you can freewheel, but there are some tips to get you started that will make life a lot easier. And that's what I'm here to show you guys. So, and once you've got your piece and you've cleaned it down, the next thing is just picking your colour. There's loads of brands of chalk paint around now. I use Annie Sloan just because she's local to me. It's the best one that I found, and I'm actually been on all of her training courses. She actually trained me herself, so I've got a real understanding of the paint, what it does, its limitations, which there aren't any, and then also lots of the tricks that she's taught me. You know, using the dark wax to age it, using the white wax to give it a Scandi feel. But I won't overload you with information too early on, and everyone will crack.
Yeah, slowly, I realised that the last time I painted a piece of furniture, walls are plenty, but the last time I painted a piece of furniture was when I was a kid. So I'm excited to use these tricks, Lynn.
I'm just turning my ringer off, because knowing me, that will ring in a minute. Right, so first of the paint, I always give it a little bit of a shake first of all, because it's got pigment in, so it does separate out slightly in the can, and then you give it a stir. Because what you don't want to do, I mean, this is, you can see when you open it, this one's not too bad at all. But what you don't want to do is start painting your piece, and then you find halfway through that there's a darker grey, a lighter grey, you know, and that happens if you don't stir paint. Any paint, that would happen.
Is there, you know, we're in the summertime, is there anything that you should look out for in terms of during the hotter weather? Like, is there any way you should treat
it? No, it's just much easier to paint. The warmer the weather, the better it dries, really, because on a damp, cold day, you can imagine that it takes quite a while for that paint to dry. But on a lovely sunny day, it dries instantly. Maybe it's
prime painting season then.
Yeah, it's really fast drying anyway, but when you've got a sunny day, the only thing is I would say, you know, if you're painting in grease in the heat of the day, you might get a crackle glaze effect because it dries so quickly that it cracks. Okay. But other than that, you'd be fine to just paint it in the sunshine. It's so therapeutic as well, painting in the sunshine on a lovely day.
Yeah, I mean, painting generally, I think, you know, you speak to, you know, most of my friends, people, you know, it's been a weird, obviously, 12 months. So any kind of escape and kind of, particularly like something like painting, I don't know, I think it's so therapeutic.
Definitely. And, you know, you end up doing something that's therapeutic and saving yourself a fortune and saving the planet all in one. It's like a win-win-win on every level, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've given that a really good stir. And then when we use chalk paint, we use these brushes. Can you see them? They're like really, really round brushes. Okay, you can use any brush, but these are definitely the best because it's quite a thick paint, and it just, we dab it in like that. You don't need too much on your brush. And then the reason it's round is so when we call it stippling, when you're going around, see how it goes around the leg of the chair?
Yeah,
so,
follow the curves.
But I'm going to push this in a bit so you can see. I'll move my board so you can see a bit clearer. But it goes, the coverage of using chalk paint is just so easy. And you do very rarely more than 2 layers. And it just goes on. Can you see?
Yeah.
It just goes on so easily. And actually, the technique isn't like, I see people painting like that. It doesn't need to be like that at all. It's literally pushing it on your brush and pushing it in. And with chair legs, we call it stippling, you know, you really need to get in the grooves, but it covers with just the tiniest amount on your brush.
Would you say that style of brush is key to, you know, ensure you're not getting the visible brush strokes, or is it more about the technique?
It does do that. It doesn't give you those lines. They're good quality brushes as well. There's nothing worse than painting something and getting your tweezers out and spending the next few hours pulling the bristles out. So you might as well spend a bit more on a good brush.
Yeah, invest in the brush, yeah.
Yes, they're just made so that you can really kind of go in the coverage, just super simple. Before you know it, you've done quite a large section of your chair. Okay, so it's just like that. And this is a lighter colour. I love the way of putting a lighter colour under a darker colour, and then you can sand it back. So here on this board, if I hold this closer. So here, there's a white colour underneath this beautiful Spencer blue. And then can you see when you put the sandpaper on, you can reveal. So in the corners, so if that was a drawer, in the corner of the drawer, you would sand and then reveal that white colour coming through. So you don't always have to do 2 or 3 layers of the same colour. Okay?
it's beautiful. So you don't really know exactly what you'll get. You pick obviously a corner and just start to kind of unfold and discover.
Yeah, true. When people are standing there, I always say just stop, step back, and have a look. Because you see people, you know, a lot of times I go into these shabby chic shops, and someone's literally worn a patch, you know, off the. Just stop, calm down, and then go back to it. It's a real art to know where to stand to give it that nice aged feeling. Rather than just stand the hell out of it.
And that's what I guess shows you like the genuine character, whereas something that's been aged mechanically, it's got a very, you know, repeat pattern, whereas obviously when you're doing it by hand, you have that ability to really see what feels and kind of looks good.
You have to think, where would that furniture piece naturally have been aged? So drawer handles, you know, where there's been a lot of use, corners or edges of drawer, would it have had a patch worn away in the middle of the seat? No, probably not. And that looks false. So it's just about being sympathetic, putting some character back. You do not have to do that look which people call shabby chic with chalk paint. That is an absolute must to point out, because at the moment there's it's more of a move towards the mid-century pieces and that sort of look.
The colour is so vivid as well. Like you say, it doesn't need to be that kind of soft aesthetic. It can be quite striking.
Yeah, definitely. So that's one thing to know. It definitely doesn't always have to be that sort of French shabby chic feel. So once you've got your paint on and you've done 2 or 3 layers and you're really happy with how it looks, the next bit would be that sanding part. Okay, so I can show you on here. I use sand pads, but you can go to any hardware store and get sandpaper. And these come in fine, medium, and coarse. And that is, you know, when you've got a fine piece of sandpaper, that would be to do the majority of the piece. So that would be to take off, you know, if you've done a chest of drawers, you would then go over it with a fine piece of sandpaper to smooth it all off. Okay, and you would then go on the corners to add that aged feel back in, if you were going for that look, with a more coarse piece. Okay? But it comes, the sanding happens, so there's a bit of so you just would go along the edges of the piece and just add that in. It's really just simple like that. Likewise, let me show you on a board here where you've got some darker colour, so you'll see what happens if we use the coarse piece. So here you've got a really nice, this is an Aubusson blue, but if I show you what happens, just take off. You see how then, if I start sanding on the corner, it takes it off. And you get this lovely white effect, which then comes through from the layer underneath.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and there's loads of effects that you can do. And I think that's, you know, people often go to these salvage fairs and they find old mirrors and things like that. And you can use crackle glaze on those, because that's a lovely effect on a mirror or a big picture frame. So there's so many different tricks and tricks you can do with all this paint. And that's the whole point of it. You can find something which really isn't the look that you want. Big gilt, you know, gold mirror. You think, that's not going to fit my house. But you can paint it and then crackle glaze it and just have a tiny bit of that gold coming through, or just block paint it completely. And I think that's the key, the key message when it comes to thinking about furniture that's sent to landfill and all of those sorts of things. Actually, it's staring us in the face. The thing that we want is probably there. It's just not in the right colour, is it?
Yeah. That's why I love, like, today is all about reuse but reimagine. So it's realising the potential, really.
Yeah.
And in that, I want to ask you what, because like Thornton Kay, the founder of Salvo, he's good at spotting things in skips. And I was curious as to what's the best treasure that you've ever...
Yeah, I can bring it over. It's in the corner of my room here. I was walking past the skip. Here it
oh my goodness.
And there was something sticking out, and it's this beautiful, and I haven't done anything with it other than give it a bit of a clean, but it was just hanging out the skip. And I just thought, oh, I'll have that. It's a little bit heavy though. And I found an egg chair in High Wycombe. I was driving through High Wycombe, And I saw, you know, they have, they're like the James Bond chairs, you know, the G-plan egg. It's beautiful. And I just saw these legs with balls on, like rollers. And I thought, oh, what's that? And it was battered. I mean, it had 2 mice that came with it living in it. Pulled it out and got it in the car and brought it home and had it recovered. Now it's amazing. It's in my bedroom upstairs. But both times it's been just those legs sort of pointing out. And you see something and you're like, ah, in the car.
You can tell it's worth exploring.
Yeah, put it out. But these days I tend to get calls. People call me and say, I'm just about to put it in the skip. Do you want it? Yeah, I can't get it.
Even better, you don't have to dig then.
Anymore. People think, I think people are so around here, they're like, oh, I can't possibly bin that because the Lambourne will be on my case. I'll give her a call and give her first option. But that makes me feel great when things, yes, they're probably too much work for some people or they can't see the potential in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, or they might call and say, you know what, I'm going to get rid of this. And I say, really? You know, corner cabinets, they're the thing at the moment. Everyone hates their corner cabinets. And, you know, we just got to think of a way of maybe taking the cupboard door off that and painting it a different colour. And then maybe it'd be a really great plant stand and, you know, have plants trailing down from it. But it's about thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, definitely. Because they've got quite a delicate look, haven't they? Which, you know, it might not be in vogue at this very moment, but there's still ways to make it yours really and make it fit, particularly if it's maybe something that's been handed down and you feel bad to get rid of it. Actually, there's ways of kind of creatively utilising it.
And really, upcycling is about putting art. You know, you can with this dark wax. When you go out there and you see all these sort of apple crates that are aged, you think that's super old, and in fact there's some man around the corner just knocking them up 5 minutes ago, and they're aging them with the dark wax. You can do that with furniture as well. You know, if you've sanded it back and you wanted to then put some colour back into that, you can do that as well. I mean, this has got, I haven't got a cloth, but you can use a wax brush and just put some colour back onto, and on top of you need a clear layer of wax first, and then you would put the dark wax on top. I can't do it without cloth. And then it would just add back in that vintage feel as well. So there's lots of different tricks that add that art onto things. I'm seeing at the moment, you know, decoupage on furniture, that's another thing. Painting. There's a wonderful lady called Maisie's House, and she's an artist, but she uses, instead of canvas, she uses furniture as that canvas. And I think that's really nice to add into your house a piece of furniture which has got, you know, art, rather than just a boring old chest of drawers.
Yeah, and that's incredible, and that's really adding value to that piece. Where would you say you draw the line between, you know, and hopefully once you bring, you know, the right materials, the right paint to a project, you can really add value to that piece. But how do you kind of draw the line or advise people, you know, actually that's something don't touch, or you know,
always look it up. I mean, things like Urkel is beautiful, and really, if you can get it restored, the wood restored, I would always advise try and do that. You know, for a while there's lots of dark Urkel that people aren't so keen on. That will come back into fashion, but you know, I've got all of these chairs here which are the lighter Urkel wood, and I think painting them is horrible because they're just so lovely. And if they're looking a bit worn, I would take them and get them stripped and then revarnished and things like that. It's not a proper furniture restorer, because there's some pieces which are just so beautiful that need to be appreciated for how they work. Whereas you find a chest of drawers and it's solid wood, but it's just not how you want it to be, then yeah,
really giving it new life, extending its life, rather than, yeah, like you say, taking something that is beautiful, even if it's not beautiful for you, then maybe it should find another home, rather than trying to transport.
I have seen, you know, these G-plan sideboards that are hugely back in fashion. You can't get them for love nor money anymore. But I've seen them painted, and I would have said originally, oh no, never do that. But actually, some of them look amazing.
Yeah,
they've been very creative and just painted maybe one door blue and one door another colour, and it, you know, it can really work. It's always about just individual pieces, isn't it? But if you think it's worth a lot of money, you need to check before ruining it. You know, lots of people get very cross.
No, definitely collectors. So How long did it take you to train with Annie Sloan? How long have you been doing it?
Well, I've worked with Annie Sloan now for about 5 years, and she does these things called academies. So you go to her actual factory is only in Oxford, so it's not far away at all. And then she's got this huge workshop. So all of her stockists are trained, which is, I think, as well why I appreciate the brand, because it's not that when you go into a shop, you're not going to get somebody who just says, yeah, it's really good, but I've never used it. Every single person has been trained, knows what to do with it. So yeah, I last went, God, about 2 years ago. We had 3 days in the workshop with her, and it's actually her painting away, showing you what to do. It's the best fun ever. I mean, it's like, for people like me who love painting, it's like being in a sweetie shop. There's just cans of paint everywhere, every colour, all this furniture that she's upcycled. And I mean, she does amazing things. Some of it's really crazy, but some of it's absolutely brilliant. You know, different techniques. My favourite one is using household bleach, which you can use to make things look really ancient, as if they've been left outside for a really long time, and it unearthed all the sort of the layers of paint over years and years and years. You can transform literally something that's dark. I did it with a fireplace that had, you know, dark red wood fireplace, and then transformed it with a lovely light green colour, but different layers of the green and the bleach and the white, and it looked like something that had been, you know, from the Victorian era, but left in a garden, and had all that character back into it.
So how does that work in terms of the process? You start with a lighter colour, and then you move down before you...
Lighter colour, and then in my head thought, right, where would I sand that back? And then I mixed darker colours. So I think it's the Florence on her range, which is a different green. So then sometimes what I do is, it's a bit of a cheat, don't tell anyone, but you know, sometimes if you're going to sand on a corner and you want several colours to come through, you don't need to paint the whole chair again. I just use sort of pink flecks, and then I go over with my final colour. So it's just about remembering where you put that different colours, and then sanding that back to reveal those colours popping through.
And then in this case, was that when you applied the bleach at the final stage?
I applied the bleach afterwards, and then it sort of works, and you smear it off. And then I went back in with a tiny, tiny paintbrush, and just around the edges of it, added back in colours. You know, sometimes there's quite a long process to do something, but it's lovely. And then you can also use things like gilding wax, which is like a gold. You put it on your finger, and where you've sanded back, you could put just tiny flecks of that gold in, and then it pops through. You can do that with, this is all when this is crackle glazed. I'll hold it up. So the crackle glaze process, but then if you use the gold gild on top, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it on the camera? If I hold it really close, probably fall into my paint. But then you can go over the crackle with the gold on your finger, and that sticks to the cracks, and that gives that really ancient sort of feel, but really nice. That's really good on mirrors, around the edge of mirrors. And charity shops are full of mirrors, and everybody wants these really nice sort of garden mirrors and things like that.
Yeah, in the garden, actually, you know, it's great to source pieces, because they used a lot inside to add space, but in the garden, I love using salvage mirrors.
Yeah, yeah. I love a good salvaged mirror. I've got one in my garden. It's lovely, and you know, if you paint it with the right paint, it will stay outside forever. You know, you wouldn't be careful. I wouldn't use chalk paint outside.
Okay.
No, it's water based, so you can seal over it, but I'd still say it's got its limitations outside. Okay. Specific garden paints for things like that.
So with chalk paint, one of I've been obviously using it for years, but the time that I didn't, I got some like reused paint or from a community paint network, you know, just to reuse the last bit in the tin. Yeah. It was a bit of a shocker, because the smell, you know, I'd forgotten what regular traditional paint smelled like, and it was great to be able to, not obviously save that wasted paint, but at the same time, for your health, you've got to think as well, think twice. So one thing that I think is amazing, and like you say, even with you get your finger involved, and it's not a big deal. Like when you're working with that kind of paint, it's just different.
Yeah, it is. And you know, this is water based, so if you spill it or you get it on yourself, you get it on your hands, you just wash your hands and it's all gone. Same with, you paint something, you can get a damp cloth and blend it in and all sorts. I, in fact, quite a lot when I've painted a chest of drawers, I will then get a very just lightly damp brush, and then I'll sweep over the top of it, and it just melts any brush strokes that might be there. It blends it all in together before sanding, and it makes it really lovely. It gives it that really smooth finish, which is totally different to other paint. You could never do that with other paint.
Yeah.
And the drips and other paint and all sorts of stuff. I just find it easier to work with this, and I actually like the finish that it gives. It's a matte finish. I said, you know, there's nothing. You don't know you would gloss a cupboard, but you do see it occasionally. You don't want that high shine on a piece of furniture.
Yeah.
You want that sort of matte look, unless it's essentially, then you might do with the lacquer on top. A lot of people ask me about kitchen cupboards. I think that's one of the biggest outlays in a house. You can completely upcycle kitchen cupboards. So a lot of salvage fairs and salvage shops have cupboards, old cupboards, that you can put back into your kitchen, or you might buy a house which has got an old kitchen that you hate and it's that horrible orange pine. Yeah. You can short paint those doors and change the handles and transform the kitchen in no time at all, for no money really. A couple of cans of paint.
Yeah.
And then you can salvage things that go with it. You could find a really cool thing to use as a kitchen island. And you've got then this feature in the centre of your kitchen. You've upcycled your kitchen cupboards and changed the door handles. Suddenly you've got a really individual look in your home, but you haven't spent a fortune.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do actually just with changing the doors, painting or just them out.
So many times when I'm like on interiors jobs and I'm helping, I've got a client and we're thinking about a new kitchen, can you design a kitchen? And I say, show me what you want. And they really aren't moving much around in the kitchen. And then they just show me a picture of what they want. And it's exactly the same, except for it's grey. And the kitchen that they've got is, that orange pine. And I think it's the same, but just painted. So you want to rip out some perfectly decent wooden cupboards, go and buy something new, which is probably not made as well. Why don't we just paint it? And I'm like, oh yeah, we could. And they don't think. People don't think about reuse as much as they should, really.
Which is why, I think one of the things we're really trying to say is that's the first step. Just really look around and try and see the potential in what's there or what you could find that's out in the market already, that's already been made.
Yeah. And probably, there's three layers that you design. You think about what you want. And you think, right, I really need this new wardrobe or this new dresser, or I want a new look in my living room. And then go and look in your blooming attic and all of your family's attics, because they'll have stuff.
Yeah.
What I expect. And then the second layer, charity shops, Salvo fairs, all of those. Go and find those things, and all these online marketplaces as well. There's so many places these days to go and find stuff all around the look that you want. It's just about thinking, right, what do I want? Okay, and then narrowing it down to what you're looking. I think sometimes people come to Salvo fairs and they're overwhelmed by what's there.
Yeah, because there is so much and so many potentials. But I think that's also one of the interesting things about reuse is, actually use what's out there, use what's available. And that's a way, because, when you're designing a home, it can be overwhelming.
It can be. Then that's the joy, I suppose. You should always have a list. When I go to Salvo fairs, I always have the measurements of what, I think that's a really good thing. Always take a tape measure. And if you're looking for something specific to go in your home, maybe it's a cup, you won't really know, because you can't, it's not like a shopping list at Salvo fairs. You can't go, right, I want 3-door, chest of drawer, blah, 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 blah. No, it's what you find, but you need to have the rough measurements so that when you see something that's quirky, original, is that going to fit in my space? You quickly measure it, it is fabulous. And your mind's all whirring, because you'll walk along, you'll see an old medicine cabinet and you'll think, well, that's perfect. That would be great for me to store all of my herbs in the kitchen. It's totally quirky, but I can see how that would work. I can paint it black and it will look great. But it's, you've got to have an open mind, haven't you? But you do need to have a list, because otherwise you can, you think, right, I've got space here, I've got space there. I have a terrible problem with chairs. I just keep coming home with chairs. I don't need any more chairs.
What do you think it is about chairs? Because they're quite a popular collector's item, because they're so personal and and unique, and you can easily obviously have mix and match. So it's easy to collect numerous chairs.
Beautiful, some that's the shape, some have just such wonderful shapes. I don't know, you just have chair fetish, don't you? You see, and I think with a chair, it's something you always feel, oh, I can just squeeze that in. I could put that in corner, or if not,
you can almost carry it, so depending on where you discovered it, it's
like an easy win, doesn't it? As opposed to buying a whole Welsh dresser. That's much less of an impulse buy. But a chair, you see it and you think, oh, I've got the right cushion for that. That could sit.
Yeah.
I love it. I've got a friend who's got a stool problem, wherever, not stool as in humans, you know, like a stool that you sit on. So, and she, wherever we go, she ends up coming home with 2 or 3 stools, and we're like, step away from the stools. Everybody has something in them like that, don't they? And I'm terrible.
But I get it. I think, you know, chairs are just so personal. So yeah. So is there any other tips in terms of like the key things for particularly me, first time, certainly since I was a kid, like first time doing this?
First time doing this. So go out there and find, I would say a chair is something very good to start on, or a bedside table.
Yeah, manageable. Actually, another thing is, in terms of when you've picked your piece of furniture, how do you assess how much paint you will need? Because obviously that they're a good sized tin, and in order to try and, you know, minimize.
Yeah, from a can like this, you could get 6 chairs.
Yeah.
You know, it lasts for forever. And if you put the lid back on properly,
yeah,
don't ever add water into the can. You can decant it and add water to make it slightly less thick if you wanted to, but never add water into the can because it will mold. And then just put your lid back on, and it will last for years. You know, hammer the lid back on, last for years. And this would do a whole Welsh restaurant can. That's all you need.
That's good.
You can tear with a tester pot, really. So yeah, pick your colour, clean it down really well, and then just start painting. You know, no barriers to entry. Just go with it. Paint it, 2 layers of paint. Decide what technique you want to do. There's lots and lots of full-length videos which show you how to do the 2-tone technique. So you go, you know, the white one first, then the colour, or just one colour. Wait for it to dry. Sand it if you want to give it that sort of, hate the word shabby chic, but that look, you know what I mean when I say it. And then wax. So afterwards, always you need to wax with a clear wax, and that protects your paint. So there's pointless spending hours painting something beautifully and then not waxing it. That's the final seal. So it seals in the colour, seals on the paint, makes it waterproof, chip-proof, a lot. And you can put that on with a wax brush like this. It's just like painting. You put it in the wax, stir it around, and then paint it on top. It's clear. It changes the look of the paint ever so slightly, so you will see where you've done it and where you haven't.
Okay.
And then wax, and then you're done. It's good to go. You can do a chest of drawers in 2 hours.
Wow. So once you've painted, you know, a couple of layers, how long should you wait before you wax it? Do you have to wait?
I always say to people, wax it the next day, because probably by the time you've done 2 layers of paint, you've lost slightly the impetus of you're not quite as enthusiastic as you were. So then you rush the wax.
Okay.
I would say let it really dry overnight, and then the next day start with your wax. When you're fresh, the paint's completely dry, you're enthusiastic again, and give it the wax. And then leave 24 hours and then do another layer of wax, just so that it soaks in.
Yeah.
The wax is like face cream. Certain areas of the wood need more than others. So it sinks in at different rates, and everybody always panics at first and goes, oh God, it's gone patchy. It will, because it's soaking in, and then it will even its way out.
That's really interesting. If you find that you really have gone, you know, heavy-handed in one particular area, is it best to wait, or is it
a cotton cloth and just buff it off? It's fine. You know, in fact, I always buff afterwards anyway. The more that you buff it, the shinier it gets. Okay. But it's good to just give it a wipe over afterwards, just to make sure all those bits are in, and then it's sort of even, and then done. You're done.
I love the comparison to a face though, like, you know, like, I mean, wood, it is very human, and the fact that it absorbs differently, I think that's really a good tip.
You see sometimes on pieces that I've painted maybe 3 years ago, I see that they're going a bit dry, and so I just wax them again, and it puts on that protective layer again. In the kitchen, if I was doing kitchen cupboards, I would use the Annie Sloan lacquer on top of the kit, because hardware, the same with the dining room table legs on the chair and chair legs, because things that are getting knocked about all the time, the lacquer is bulletproof. It literally seals in that colour and puts a protective layer on top. So anything like that, I would use the lacquer, and the lacquer you can roll her on. And Annie's got some amazing, if you go onto her YouTube channel, there's videos for absolutely everything. Or contact your nearest stockist like me, and then come on a workshop and spend the day actually doing, we all do these boards in the morning that teach people all the different techniques.
Yeah.
They bring a piece of furniture with them, and in the afternoon they do the piece of furniture and leave with it finished. So it's a really good time to play around, and all the teachers will help, and they will say, well, I wouldn't advise that on that, or what about this colour? We're all trained on colour as well. So I think that's a really important thing, is looking at where you're putting your piece, matching a colour with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Most people are going grey at the moment. They love a bit of grey. It was beige a few years ago, now it's grey. But people are getting quite bold as well. And sometimes if they don't want to do a whole feature wall in that dark blue or black, they're using that on furniture. And I am loving the black furniture look.
Yeah.
That looks really lovely when you've got a white layer underneath, and then you do the black on top, and then you reveal that white layer underneath. That looks so expensive and so high end, I think. Wow. And then in your home with green plants on a piece of furniture like that, it looks really nice.
Stunning. Yeah. So are there any other favourite techniques that that most people go for? So obviously they learn in the morning the different styles. What would you say?
Everybody goes that shabby chic route. They all want to give it that sort of French look, the white underneath. There have been people who've reversed that, so they do the blue underneath or the dark colour underneath and the white on top and pop that through. But nearly everybody wants that, and that's the beauty of that technique as well. It's very forgiving for somebody who's starting out. They can actually achieve something which looks really professional, because the style of that painting is that it isn't perfect. So they will go home really happy, and then they realise, and I see them a couple of weeks later, and they're with their partners, and their partner's like, that she's painting everything. She's not stopped. We have nothing left that's not painted. And it does, I think, as people see, that you can transform something so easily in such a little amount of time, it suddenly gives your whole house that different potential.
Yeah.
You can transform things really cheaply.
Yeah, obviously that you can go ahead and transform something quite quickly, really.
You see so many when I'm out and about in car boots, and these pine beds. It's just boring pine. They look amazing painted up. My daughter's got a bright yellow one, English yellow by Annie Sloan in her bedroom. But these beds are solid, really lovely made, and painted up. They look fantastic.
Beautiful.
In fact, if you go to these big stores, you see online, we've got Loaf or really wonderful stores where they sell these new beds. They look exactly the same. So it costs nothing to transform a bed, really. Kind of paint and a bit of elbow grease, and you've got something really unique for your home.
Yeah. That's what I love though, is well, as you're saying, it is easy, but I love the way that you show that kind of anything's possible, really.
Well, it is, and it becomes a hobby, as we said at the beginning. It's therapeutic as well, but it's a cost thing. People, when they move home, when they're first setting up home, they don't always have huge amounts of spare cash. It's all gone on to mortgage or their first home, and I think that panics people. But actually, looking out there, it's all out there. It's all already made, sitting in someone's garage, sitting in a warehouse, sitting in a. And if you go out and look for those things, you can find those things, make your home beautiful for a fraction of the price.
And personal as well.
You're not going to get your mate coming around going, where'd you get that? And you say John Lewis, and you go around the next week and they've got it as well. When you go to salvage fairs, when you salvage stuff or skip dive, you end up with something that's totally unique to you. And that's what I love. It's the luck of the draw.
Yeah.
You can never predict what you're going to find, can you, on a salvage day?
That's why open-minded and a list of your measurements. That's all you need.
Yeah, all you need is and if you have trained yourself or you've tried this paint or any paint really, if you're a bit okay with it, then when you go and see something, you think, I can do that. I know I can paint that. That would be great.
Yeah, it opens up even more possibilities.
Yeah, it's almost like, to be a good salvager or a good interior sort of stylist using salvage, you just need to learn some real basics, and then you can go. And then it opens up this whole kind of world of potential, doesn't it?
So for you, rewinding back, when did you start getting into salvage? When did you start, teaching yourself these basics, I guess, in order to...
I had my daughter, Grace, my eldest daughter, so I needed to do a nursery, and I just sort of finished my huge corporate job to go on maternity leave, and I thought, oh well, I'll paint stuff, and I'll do it myself, and I started, and I literally haven't stopped since then. I've always loved vintage. Vintage has just been, for me, vintage clothes, that whole sort of thing, that whole,
yeah, it all goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
I love it. I love the individuality of it. I think going back in time, styles were so lovely. It's the same with furniture. The style of furniture was so beautiful. So I've always loved that. And then I just gradually kind of taught myself. I went on an Annie Sloan course, was addicted, and then thought, right, I'm going to learn more about this myself. And then I was lucky enough to work with Annie on several different the Kirsty's Handmade Craft Fair and different campaigns. So Annie and I both do the British Heart Foundation We Loved and Revolution together.
Yeah.
And it's just grown from there. You know, I just love doing it. And the more interiors jobs I do at the moment, whereas a few years ago everybody wanted literally to sit with the John Lewis catalogue and order things, now people are contacting me now who actually get what I do, and that's what they want. So they have stuff already they want painted up, or they want to source something secondhand because A, they like it, and B, people are thinking so much more about the planet and about shopping sensibly and kindly, and not wanting to fill their house with cheap tax, wanting to find stuff with a purpose that otherwise, you know, might have been sent to landfill.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us on nicely to worries on waste. So, you know, I think obviously our awareness over the last 5 years, particularly in terms of plastic in the ocean, you know, we're all a lot more aware thanks to numerous things, but still watching the video with the straw and the turtle, if you watch Lynne's video, just it's still just as heartbreaking every time, you know, you see pictures like that. And it just reminds you how important it is in every decision that you make, really, in our daily lives.
And more people are understanding that, which is lovely. People, the world's changed. Now being sustainable and caring about the planet isn't thought of as weird and not necessary. People are there's so much more work that we need to do, but they are understanding of that.
Yeah.
If we don't do it and we don't teach the next generation to do it, we haven't got a hope in hell. You know, so it's so important. And it's laziness. Most of the time it is just laziness, because the changes that we all need to make are small. And if we all did those small changes, there'd be an absolutely massive difference. But it's just people need to kick up the arse to do that. And you hear it so often, oh God, the councils, why don't they put more bins out? Well, stop buying the stuff that needs to go in the bin, get reusable, you know, stop using those cups, stop buying the sandwiches. We all need to just question our involvement in the situation, to do with the pollution, to do with the packaging, to do with the energy consumption. What are we doing about it? It's not for governments, it's not for local authorities. Ultimately it is, but we can't sit around and wait.
Yeah.
Do something yourself. And yeah, I get really irate. You're sitting around and people are moaning about stuff that they have the capacity to change themselves. We just don't do it.
So you talk about kids, and I think, you know, they just get the common sense, I think, often, like, so in such a more straightforward way. And like you say, you know, we're accustomed to certain things, our lives a certain way, whereas, you know, a lot of the work that you do with Warriors on Waste is teaching the kids. But I'd be interested to hear, you know, kind of, I don't know, how surprising it is just working with them and how much they...
Kids are sponges, and they go home and they nag their parents.
Yeah.
And all I ever really wanted to do was just to make it fun and to make it kind of cool to care. Yeah. So to be out there and just to be not a nag, nobody needs another nag in their life, but to make it fun and to kind of make a club where saving the planet was the coolest thing to do. You know, you're up against Minecraft, you're up against all these other things with kids, so you've got to make it super fun. Yeah. And to get them off the devices, because you cannot get kids to want to save the world if they're not in love with nature. If they don't go into the woods and play in the woods and see how amazing it is when the sun shines through the trees and you can build bases from all the branches that fall, if they don't experience that, they're not going to care. So I just wanted to take them back and show them how to grow some veg. And I mean, just seeing them last year when we were picking the potatoes that we'd grown in the Warriors and Waste garden bit, they loved it. They absolutely love it. And that just gives me joy that it's sort of moved on now to the adults, and they all want to get in on the action. You know, they realise it's cool and to wear camo and hang out and try and save the planet. it's a club. I just want it to be fun. You know, it's just an activity where we can all get together and make a difference and support each other, you know, through, I love promoting other brands who do things that are good as well, and just educate. All I see myself is like a filter, because I'm in that world and I spend every day talking to people or meeting people. Then I can filter it down to make it really easy for everybody else to make the right choices. So they don't have to say to me, I'm so busy, I can't do that because I'm so busy. You can, because it's on my website and it's a second choice. You know, 2 seconds, do it. Yeah, I'm not perfect and I don't know all the answers, but I'm doing my best to find the answers and to pass it on. That's all I can do.
We can't say better than that. Like, you know, the theme of this festival, finding beauty in imperfection. I think, like you say, like that, you know, as soon as you embark on this journey to try and do something and make better choices, you become aware of, and you kind of sustainability shame yourself, but actually it's just really important to be aware and to do your best.
That's all we can ask, isn't it? To do our best. There should be no shame. No one's perfect. We're all very busy. I get all of that. But if we can all make a few changes, we're all halfway there, aren't we? We're going to get better. Yeah. But it's just about opening your eyes, working together as a team. There's no, you know, there's no way we're going to beat it on our own. So might as well have fun doing it and help each other and get on with it. And wear camo. And this is our best.
Okay, final comment on the jumpsuit, why we love them. We definitely bonded over a good jumpsuit on our first Salvo fair together.
Exactly, I love this. I've got this one on today. I love them. You can wear, you just zip them up and off you go. No thought process needed. Just always look great. Wear them with heels if you're going out. Trainers if you're wearing them for work. Pockets for your phones. Job done. Absolutely brilliant.
Pockets in women's clothing are really underrated. So yeah, it's good to have
pockets. I like. Yeah.
But they're a tape measure when you're going around sourcing furniture.
Exactly what I need. One big tape measure. Yeah, perfect. You know, they are great. But when you find them, I like you, you're so into your vintage fashion. But that's another thing I love. You know, just finding something quirky that nobody else will have. And it's that, again, how come we can have clothes that are made in the 50s and 60s and they look so amazing still? The quality is still there. Yet you can go to bloody Primark and buy something and in 6 months' time it will be falling apart and awful. That just shows you, you know, this, we think, go back in time, that everything was made so well and made to last. And I think that is a lot of the key to sustainability in the future, is buying better and making things that last. We've got to stop this throwaway culture.
Definitely. Great. Well, thank you so much. Are there any kind of lasting tips that you want to leave everyone with, or?
No, just have a go. Just start it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't say you can't do it. Don't say you're not artistic and you can't paint, because you absolutely can. And just go and find something, you know, find it in a skip or buy it second hand or at a salvage fair and have a go. You will amaze yourself, and then all your friends will be amazed and want what you've got.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.